This is the installation video for the Fleck 5600 SXT metered softener. It comes in two packages. So the softener ships in two packages. The first package, or the heaviest package, the tallest package, is the mineral tank, and it is already loaded with the resin in there for you. It is typically about half to 2/3 full of resin inside there, so if you see a gap at the top, don't be alarmed. That's supposed to be there. That allows a proper regeneration, the lifting of that media in order to get a good clean regeneration, so don't add more to that. So that is filled to where it should be. The other package is going to be the brine tank or the salt tank, and it's the shorter package, and it's going to come with lots of the other fittings and all the stuff you'll need for the installation as well, the installation kit and the blue bag and things. So of course inside there is going to be the Fleck 5600 SXT metered softener valve with the upper basket attached. The blue bag will have the hardness test kit, the bypass, a drain bar, a bunch of small fittings, lubrication, installation kit and things like that. So that will all come in that brine tank there for you once you take the lid off. Also inside the brine tank, you will have the safety float, the brine well and the safety float, and attached with a baggie is the drain barb for that. If you take the lid off of this, you will see that the brine line is also in there, and we're going to show you how all that connects, but that is where your brine line is. Here are a few things you will need to provide for the installation on your own. First of all, just a few hand tools, some screwdrivers, maybe a wrench, some teflon tape. You also need to provide your drain barb. This is just the drain line, and it's just 1/2" ID drain line. And this is of course just a small section of one to show you an example. And it's just 1/2" ID, that's inner diameter. And then a way to connect that to the drain barb, we just recommend something that's flexible and rigid so it doesn't kink and things. And then the hose clamp will hold that onto the drain barb. You also need something to connect your main plumbing to the male threads, of the yoke that is provided. We're going to show you with installation hoses. These are flexible hoses. These are both female threaded on each side, but there are variations to that. But that's how we're going to show you. But from the male threads of the softener to your plumbing, you know, everybody's plumbing is different. Is kind of up to you to know the best way to do that. Obviously, we'd love to help you with that, but we're going to show you with the flexible water lines here. First thing we're going to do is hand tighten the valve onto the tank. So the control valve, the Fleck 5600 SXT metered softener valve, is going to just thread on, hand tighten onto the tank. This does come with this lid. I've already loosened it here, but it comes with this little cap here to keep the resin from falling out. And you'll see there is a riser tube in there. So you just take the cap off, and then this riser tube, it may be shifted over to one side or the other. It's no big deal. Just center it up, and then what you're going to do is before you attach that, there is a large O-ring on the bottom. Lube up that large O-ring that's around there. It already has the upper basket on there, and you can see obviously the riser tube is going to fit right up inside of this. So you're going to place this up on top of the riser tube, making sure that it's centered, and just hand tighten the valve onto the tank. When we hand tighten that valve onto the tank, we do not want to over tighten it. Tighten it like a 2-year-old. Lubricate that large O-ring and let that large O-ring hold the water back. And remember to never use pipe dope or Teflon tape on the valve connection there as you're putting that onto the mineral tank. That can actually cause a crack. There's no need for pipe dope or Teflon tape on that valve before you put it on the tank. I'm just using one hand to really spin this around to make sure that I don't over tighten it. So I just tighten it until it's snug. I felt it snug up there, so I give it one little bit more turn like a 2-year-old, and that is where I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to over tighten that control valve. If you over tighten it, then you can cause a crack in the tank or a crack in the valve. You certainly don't want to do that. Let the large O-ring hold the water back as it's designed and as it will. We are then going to connect the yoke to the bypass, and then the bypass to the back of the control head. This is the actual meter that's measuring where this cable's going in, the paddle wheel meter there. So we're going to connect the yoke to the bypass first, and the bypass to the actual meter here. There are some O-rings on each one of these male connectors here and here. We want to make sure we're using the lubrication. And in case you're wondering, cooking oil is a good substitute for the lubrication that was provided in the blue bag. So if you run out or whatever, you can always use cooking oil there. But you're going to connect that using O-ring lubrication, connect those. And then on the sides here is just these clips and screws. You can use either a 1/4 inch nut driver or a flathead screwdriver, but you may need to loosen them up a little bit. And these clips just encompass both of those. You'll see the sections where they do that if you look closely. It's just gonna hold those in. You do not need to over tighten those screws. Do not over tighten those, as it can crack the housing here and cause a leak. All the screw needs to do is hold the clip together snug to keep separation happening between the bypass and yoke, and also the meter and the yoke and the bypass. We do have these screws only snugged up, and you'll see there is a little bit of play. That's designed that way, so when you plumb it in, there's a little bit of play there. Obviously, you don't want it torquing up or down or twisting the bypass when you connect your plumbing, but there is a little bit of play there. That is designed. Do not go and over tighten those screws. Next, we're gonna connect our main water supply coming in and out. We've already put some Teflon tape on these male threads here. And we're gonna show you again the installation with these flexible water lines. One reason why is there's a little rubber washer or plastic washer in a lot of these. That helps get that watertight seal. So that's what we're gonna choose to use here. Very important to point out as well the arrows that are on the bypass here. So this is the arrow coming in. There's an arrow over there pointing out, speaking in terms from where the softener is. This is the supply water coming in from the city or from your well pump. Make sure this is your inlet coming in, and then your outlet over there on the other side going out. So if you're facing the front of the control valve, the right side is the incoming water, the left side is the outgoing water from the system. So you definitely want to make sure that you do that. It is very easy to pull an old system out, put a new one in, and assume it's the same and totally forget. So it's very easy to do. So just keep in mind, pay attention closely to the arrows. That is the water flow direction. We're just gonna use those flexible water lines and just snug them up here. You may use a wrench just to snug those up a little bit, but again, you don't need to over tighten things. So we're gonna do that now. So obviously you need to turn off the water to your house, and however you cut into your pipes or connect it there, maybe you have a water softener loop. However you do that, obviously you're gonna have the water turned off to there while you do that, and while you're connecting these. And at the same time, what I would say is make sure that your unit is to bypass. So if these are looking like railroad tracks to you here, parallel with each other, it is in service. So we want to go ahead and turn that to bypass by twisting those. And you can see the little arrow there showing which way to go to bypass. But we want to make sure they're in line with each other, stopping the water flow coming in and water flow going out, so the unit is in bypass right now as we're doing the rest of the installation. Next, we're going to install the drain barb. And again, just 1 or 2 wraps, 2 or 3 wraps of Teflon tape. It installs on the back side here, and there's female threads there, and so you're gonna just thread that on. I would suggest hand tightening and then make sure it is snug, but you definitely want to use Teflon tape on that, and then just snug that up with a wrench, but not too much at all. Just barely snug is enough. You know, plastic drain barb, plastic housing, make sure that you don't over tighten that and crack the housing or the drain barb. And then we're gonna install our drain line. Again, I'm showing just a small section of a drain line as an example with a hose clamp. So just put the hose clamp on the hose, and then you're gonna just push that on to the drain barb, your drain line, however you do this. You're just gonna push that onto the drain barb here, and then use the hose clamp to just snug that up so you don't have any leaks. You're gonna run that drain line, which is 1/2 inch ID, which is inner diameter, to a drain. That drain needs to be at least 1.5 inches in diameter. And so that's, again, 1.5 inches in diameter drain pipe. So you run your drain line. Now it will come out under pressure, so it will wiggle, but you do not wanna just jam the tube down into the drain. You wanna make sure you have an air gap to make sure there is no back pressure at all on that system. So again, that's a 1.5 inch drain pipe that you're running your drain line to, and make sure you have an air gap. Follow all your local rules and laws about draining and all those things. Different parts of the country may be different, so it is up to you to follow those rules. It is time to connect the control valve to your salt tank and the safety float technically. So set up the brine tank and all of that. And where you connect that to is this brass fitting on the side here is going to be connected with the brine line We're going to show you how all that works right now. First of all, remember inside your salt tank, your brine tank, if you take the cap off the brine well, your brine line hose and a little baggie is in there. So this is your drain barb for the overflow elbow there. So we'll have that in there, and then also get your brine line out, and you can even see the safety float is in there as well. You can see the stainless steel male threaded nipple sticks through. So there's one small hole on this side of the brine well, and there's two larger holes on this side. So the stainless steel there, it may be connected for you already, but if not, the stainless steel side goes through there with a little stainless nut, and that's how you hold the safety float to the brine well. In order to connect the brine well, the bottom hole on that brine well, those two holes are going to line up with the outside of your tank here. The bottom hole there, as you can see it line up, you're going to put your overflow elbow through there. And the best way to do that is to just move this elbow, that's O-ring there, so you can kind of move that. Hold the nut on the inside here, and then line it up. Put the male threads through there, and then just snug it up. As you can see, the drain barb here for the overflow elbow. If you had a hard time putting your hand through there to hold it there, you can. Obviously, you can take this nut off, pull the float out, that comes out, and then put that overflow elbow, drop the float back in, and put it through there. So you can obviously do that. We just find it easier to just slide it out of the way and just put that there. But anyway, now we're just gonna loosen this nut on the top of the elbow here. The top of the elbow, just loosen that up quite a bit. You're gonna take your brine line. I believe it has one of those brass fittings there, the brine line stabilizers. If not, you'll have it in the baggie there. And you're just feeding it through the salt tank, which is then going to come in there. And if you loosen that nut enough, you'll be able to just push that tube in. You don't have to push it in too far. Just push the tube into that, and it's a compression fitting there, and then just snug up that compression fitting here. I don't even think you'll need a wrench on that. Just just finger tighten that up there, and that's how you connect to the safety float on the brine tank side. This overflow elbow is there to remember to hold the brine well to the salt tank. Lots of people don't even use that to a drain. If you have a floor drain near, then it's nice. It's just 1/2 inch ID, so you could use the same type of drain line, but do not tee that in to the existing drain line, as this is just, gravity drain. The one out of the top of the control valve, that's pressure from your incoming house. So don't tee those in, but if you have a floor drain near, it's nice to hook that up as well. There's one variation that may deviate from the brine tank setup that we just went over. Two things. One, the brine line may not be in with the brine well. It may be just in the tank. It may just be there, not in the brine well. It may be like a different color than black. We showed a black one, but it's just a 3/8 inch diameter tube. So it may not be in there. It may just be in the brine tank itself. And also, it may not get installed in the corner. It may get installed on the side. You would see the holes that would be on the side, but that's the only variation. So not much difference as far as how it connects to the float and all of that, and how it connects to the brine well itself, but it may just be on the side of the tank. Just be aware that there are some variations to that. Now that we have the brine line attached to the safety float, the salt tank, we are now going to connect the other end to this brass fitting here on the right side of the control valve here. This is where you use the little brine line pack here. You'll see these 4 small pieces. This stabilizer may or may not be in the tube already. If not, it's right there, and it just goes in the end. And we're going to show you how to do that. This is a little screen here. We suggest that you don't use that. It ends up clogging, causing more issues than necessary. So we recommend that you just throw that away. There is another screen in the injector housing here that does get backwashed with the unit that is doing the same thing. So that's what we recommend you use. So you first put the brass nut onto the brine line, then you put this white ferrule fitting. The white ferrule fitting is tapered. You can see that it's tapered. So the tapered end is going to point towards the control valve. So the brass nut first, then the white ferrule fitting, and then if the brine line stabilizer is not in there, just shove the brine line stabilizer in there. And then that's when you'll raise the nut up and just tighten that onto that brass fitting there. No Teflon tape or pipe dope on that. You don't need it. So just connect that there. You do probably want to use a wrench on that just to make sure it is snug, but you do not need to over tighten it. Before we go over the startup procedures, just verifying everything is first connected properly. So you have your incoming water on the right side coming into the softener, following the arrows on the bypass and out to the rest of your home. You have your drain line. Again, this is a shortened drain line for demonstration purposes, but your drain line is attached. It's 1/2 inch ID, but it is going to a drain that is at least 1.5 inches in diameter. You have your brine line attached with the compression fitting here, attached to your salt tank. I put the cap back on where the safe float is. All that is attached. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and turn the unit back to in service now. Like we said before, your bypass has been in the off position, hopefully, if you followed the instructions. So turn on the water back to the system. Water will flow then through the bypass and out to the rest of the house now. But we wanna go ahead and open the bypass, okay? We're gonna open that. We wanna open this and slowly open it over the course of 5 or 7 seconds. You're gonna hear water rushing into the tank and all of that, but don't crank that open quickly. Let the water just slowly, kind of gradually gain momentum. And then once you do that, then you can turn the other one as well. Same type of thing. And you just wanna run that until the water fills up into the tank. So just open the bypass slowly. Even while that is filling up with water, I'm gonna go ahead and plumb the control valve in. It just plugs into a regular 110 outlet. So you can go ahead and plug that in and then take a look at the screen here. The great news is that it's already programmed for your size system. It's already programmed for your system. The only thing you need to do is set the time of day and also set the hardness, okay? So let's go over that. So to set the time of day, you just use the up and the down arrow keys, okay? Notice that the time of day and there's a PM indicator. So let's just pretend it's AM, then you just hold in the down button and get that time of day to move, okay? Let's say it's 11:30. So we would just go to 11:30. Once we get to 11:30, notice there's no AM, so that means it's an AM. You can tap that diamond shaped button there, the regen button, and you have your time set. If it's PM, then you just hold the up arrow key, get that time of day to move. Let's say it's 12:30. We'll just set that up here to 12:30. You can always go back down, tap that diamond button. So that's how you set the time of day. You're already probably wondering what that other number is. That other number is gonna change according to the next step we're gonna do. So the next step is to set the hardness, and I'm gonna explain what that number is. To set the hardness, all you need to do is hold down the up and the down arrow keys together for about 10 seconds. So I'm holding them down. First thing you'll see is the DO and a pencil. On city water, we do like that day override, the DO set at 14. If you're on well water with iron, it is much better to have that set at 7. We just don't want it to go longer than 1 week without regenerating if there's iron and hardness in the water. So again, if you're on well water, we definitely recommend the 7-day override. On city water, 14. So we're gonna use that diamond button to advance through. And by the way, you can change the time of regeneration. So if you have multiple filters, you don't want them going at the same time, you can have this is 2:00 AM that it will regenerate when it does. That's the default. H is your hardness. So you set your hardness there. Your hardness may be 15. So you would set your hardness, it may be 25, whatever it is, you set your hardness there. And also in the programming here for the hardness, not only do you put your hardness in there in grains per gallon, but also if there's iron in the water, we want to add to that hardness number to account for both of those. And so for 1 part per million of iron, we would add 5 to the hardness. So if your hardness was 20, but your iron was 2 parts per million, then 2 times 5 for the iron is 10. So you would add 10 to the hardness on the hardness setting there. So again, for every 1 part per million of iron, add 5 to the hardness setting. That way in the programming, you're accounting for iron along with the hardness to allow that system to backwash out and keep your resin clean as possible. Then you tap the diamond shaped button, and then the RC is a reserve capacity to make sure you don't run out of water during the day, run out of soft water during the day. Tap that diamond button one more time. And I didn't change the hardness setting on this, so it's still showing 1050. This is 1,050 gallons before it triggers a backwash or triggers a regeneration that night. So that's what that number is. It will count down and measure the amount of water, but that is how you start up the system. so far. So if we open the bypass, get the water flowing into the tank, plug the control valve in, set the time of day, set your hardness. That's all you need to do. Everything else is pre-programmed. And now, as it's filling up with water, it may be done by now, who knows? Over in the salt tank, we want to take a look. What we want to do here is we want to add 1 or 2 gallons of water to the salt tank. Just 1 or 2 gallons of water. We don't want to put too much water in that at the beginning. 1 or 2 gallons is enough to get the siphons going and things like that. So add 1 or 2 gallons of water to the salt tank. And then after that, of course, or even before, you can go ahead and put at least 1 bag of salt in there if you'd like. But what we're going to do after we do that, after the tank is already filled with water, after this salt tank has 1 to 2 gallons of water, we want to go ahead and do a manual backwash right away. The brand new media in the tank always needs rinsed out really well. The water can be cloudy, there could be air in the lines and things like that. And so to do a manual backwash, what you're going to do is you just hold in this regen button there for about 5 seconds. And as you're holding that in, you'll see the first thing that you'll see, it's going to go to 4 dashes and say BW. That stands for backwash. It's going to do its backwash now, okay? So what that means is it's going to be rinsing through the new media, and then it's going to pull water in from the salt tank. It's going to rinse it. It's going to put more water back into the salt tank when it's all done. And so you want to do that. And as you're doing that, what it would be good is go to the drain and take a look at the water out the drain line, okay? It's got the 4 dashes, but it's going to end up counting down from 10 minutes. During that backwash, we want to make sure that that water is getting rinsed out the drain line, making sure there's no leaks in your plumbing and all your connections. That's also why we do this. And then after it's done backwashing, which it'll take about an hour and a half, it'll take about an hour and a half, see it's starting to count down here. Then what we want you to do is find the tap that's closest to the softener in the plumbing there, maybe a downstairs laundry room or whatever. Open the cold side only and run water until it's clear. There might be air in the lines, it still might be a little cloudy water. Run it until it's clear, and then after that you're gonna be done. But so again, do this manual regeneration first, and then after it's all done, find the closest tap to this. Generally a bathtub or something like that works really well, or a wash basin in a laundry room, and run water until it's clear out that cold side only. So after it's done that manual regeneration, then remember to run that tap that's close to your system, cold water only until it's clear and there's no air in there. So remember to do that. But after that, you know, you've got the 1 bag of salt in your salt tank already. We want you to keep at least 1 bag of salt in that tank at all times. Other than that, you could fill it all the way up, but make sure there's at least 1 bag of salt in that tank at all times. But again, do that, run that tap that's close there, run it till it's clear, get all the air out. And then keep in mind, it does take 2, sometimes 3 weeks to get the full effects of soft water through your house. So don't panic day 1 if you test your water and there's still some hardness there. It does take some time for 2 reasons. 1, we want to make sure that resin gets fully charged with a couple good regenerations. And then also, you know, all of the water that's in your plumbing, in your hot water heater and all of that could possibly be very hard. So just keep in mind, give it a couple weeks, but it will begin to soften right away. But to get the full effects and the full efficiency out of the unit, it could take a couple weeks. But we would love to help answer any of your questions along the way during installation, purchasing, programming, anything you got here at A+ Water. We love to help our customers. So if you bought from us, please do not hesitate to give us a call at 877-477-5452. Again, that phone number is 877-477-5452. Thanks and enjoy your water.